What was that, Greg? You had a tidbit?
Yeah, I had a tidbit.
What is it?
We're going to be talking about Rockdale, right?
Yes.
Jeff Miller, head coach.
Uh-huh.
Cy Fair graduate.
Okay.
Greater Northwest Houston. Quarterback of the Cy Fair Bobcats in 1985 when they made the state semifinals.
Was he really?
He was. The best team in school history until this year, Cy Fair in the state semifinals for the first time since Jeff Miller played quarterback. Jeff Miller coaching in the state semifinals this week in Cypress, Texas, home of the Cy Fair Bobcats.
Dude, that's what's the word for like a big tidbit? Is there I don't know what that would be, but that is a really good piece of information right there.
It's like a hunk. It's more of a hunk than a tidbit.
Yeah, that's awesome.
A lot of meat on that bone.
That's really cool. Marcus is blown away. He's falling out of his chair. He's doing math in his head. I don't know what's going on.
All that out, man.
That's pretty incredible.
In fact, Coach Miller could even stick around after Rockdale plays on Friday night. He could stick around and go watch his alma mater Saturday afternoon against Austin Westlake at NRG Stadium in Houston. He'll probably be in a better mood to do that.
And maybe,
if his team wins.
If he's still celebrating. Well, with that, man, welcome back to the Temple Daily Telegram Sports Podcast. This is Josh. You've already heard Greg in his mind-altering tidbit. Marcus is here as well. And yes, we are going to be talking about Rockdale, which is playing in the Class 3A Division I state semifinals tonight against Yoakum. We're also going to be chatting about the Temple Wildcats. Another strong season came to an end without a state title, but we'll touch on that a little bit. Because the Wildcats did a lot of good things again. Just came up short. We'll wrap up Salato's season. They lost last week in the regional final to West Orange Stark, 14-0. Great game. Salato, we knew they weren't going to just kind of roll over in that one, and they certainly didn't. The defense didn't for sure. But I don't know. Let's start with Rockdale. I think maybe might as well. We've already talked to them a little bit. The Tigers in the state semifinals for the first time since 1976, which happened to be the year they won their only state championship. And I think that might have been at the 2A.
2A, which is most like now would be considered 4A.
Right.
The two levels from the top.
Yeah.
So even though now they're 3A technically, that would have back then been what, 1A?
I don't
1976.
know. But they got the big sign over the field house there. The Tigers have been looking good these playoffs. They got obviously, we can say this every week that the test is tough. Yoakum, number 6, they're state runner-up last year. They lost to Mineola in the championship game, 35-14. But everyone's excited in Rockdale, and this figures to be another good matchup. We were talking a little bit about it earlier. Yoakum's offense likes to run the ball. Coach Miller says they'll throw it, and they can throw it pretty good as well. But it's one of those things where if Rockdale's defense can kind of hone in on what Yoakum does, they're the Bulldogs, by the way. We might be looking at a trip to Arlington a week from now. I don't know what you guys think, though.
I think what's interesting about Yoakum, among other things, is that they have 3 Division I big time commitments, which is pretty rare for
one on the offensive line.
A big 300-pound tall guy. His name is Silas Robinson. I think he might be the coach's son. And then obviously the Moore brothers, Jordan and Joshua, who are both. If you want to kind of be impressed, go look at the list of offers those guys have. It's really coast to coast from the biggest programs you can think of: Alabama, Ohio State, everybody in Texas, USC. So those guys are obviously have a overabundance of talent for the 3A level. But we'll see how Rockdale's not without athletes, obviously, and they have a big time guy in Jaquaylin Crawford who's going to Oklahoma. So we'll see how that matchup goes.
Yep, we just got a fax. Crawford announced that he's going to be signing next Wednesday. It actually didn't say Oklahoma on it, which I
saw Garrison Vaughn from Belton did the same thing. It didn't say Houston on it. But
he had the hashtag Go Cougs though.
Okay, So he might have switched it to Washington State.
Right. That's true. Now we're not going to look into that, but Rockdale does have its share of athletes as well. And talking about the brothers from Yoakum, Jordan, he had 400-some yards rushing in the regular season, and in the 4 playoff games, he's had more than 800. So I'm not sure if they just, found something that they liked against these teams that they were playing, but he's rushed for more than 200 yards in the last 3 games. His brother Joshua has something like 800 yards combined, receiving and rushing, double-digit touchdowns. So obviously, that offense is going to revolve around them, but they also have a really good running back. I think his name's Henry Enoch, maybe, 1,000-plus yards rushing as well. So Jeff Miller called them the most stacked 3A team that they've seen in a long time, which is saying something. I mean, they've come across some good offenses, especially this year.
Yeah. Well, they also played their main rival Cameron Yo in the 4th round rematch game a few years back.
Right.
I forget what year exactly, but that was a pretty talented team, but not in terms of Division I type talent. But obviously Rockdale's a pretty good handle on who Yoakum's going to try to get the ball to, so they can gear their defense toward putting together their best plan against these guys and maybe trying to make that Enoch guy or anybody else beat them. It doesn't sound like the quarterbacks are like dual threat type guys. It sounds like they get the ball to these more guys and kind of let them do their thing. So
yeah,
I'm sure Rockdale will have a good plan. It's just a matter of, are these guys too good, or can Rockdale limit them? And obviously Rockdale has a good chance to score a bunch of points itself because they've got some serious weapons.
Yeah. Rockdale's defense, Miller calls them the best asset of that team. They're going to bend some and give up a few points. I think it's 23 points a game, right about 280 yards a game as well. But in crunch time, facing a team in its red zone, Rockdale's come through quite a bit in these playoffs. We talked last week in the 3rd and the 4th round they had given up a combined. Second and third round, a combined 6 second-half points. Yeah. They gave up 13 last week against Teague in the regional final in the second half, but the Lions had the ball in Rockdale's territory, I think 4 times in the first half. They only got in once, and then a couple more times in the second half, including a 1st and goal at the 5, with a chance to make it a 1-score game there in the 4th quarter, and Rockdale didn't let them in. Tigers go on a 90-yard drive, score a clinching touchdown, and that was that. So the Tigers' defense has been up to the task so far, and they're going to have to be again tonight for sure.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, and I mean they're probably playing the best defense right now that they have all year, and it's one of those things where they're kind of coming together at the right moment, and they'll definitely have a good test. You've already mentioned these guys. Jordan Moore, I think, had committed to A&M. I'm not sure if that's still standing because of the whole Sumlin thing. If he may decommit, who knows?
He's still listed as a Texas A&M commitment, right. But I think I saw they were trying to predict where he'll end up going, and it was like 70% Nebraska. So,
yeah,
who knows? And his brother's not committed. He just has dozens of offers.
Yeah, we were all reading that same article, over 30 offers for one of them, and 70 for the other, or something like that. That's just ridiculous. I was lucky that one college actually accepted me for anything. But yeah, and one thing, Rockdale's defense, if you watch Jordan Moore on tape, if you see any tape of him, he's got some serious speed and some quickness. And one thing that Miller's not afraid to do is use Jaquelin on defense and cover that key guy. So we may see Jaquelin playing quite a bit on both sides of the ball. And it hasn't seemed to have affected his endurance any, and he's in there at the end of the games, and that'll be a good matchup to watch for all night long. And I imagine Moore might actually play some defense and cover Jaquelin as well on the other side of it.
Yeah.
So it's just going to be a matter of not only that matchup, but who can take advantage of the other players around them. And, Rockdale teams key on Jaquelin early, and Rockdale finds a way to open it up and move the ball around and kind of get it to other players. And Yoakum may offer them a tough test to see if they can still do that come later on tonight.
Yeah.
And, I think a guy like Tyler Limcool could be a big key factor for Rockdale, too, with his size, getting down the field, kind of the, Gronkowski of Milan County, sort of with his size, and, maybe a matchup problem for Yoakum, but maybe they've got athletic enough guys to handle them. We'll just have to see. But it's special teams could be big too. It sounds like almost like the offenses and defensive almost could cancel each other out on a given night. maybe who's more solid and doesn't make the big mistake, or who produces the big play like Jaquelin Crawford on a kick return, a punt return. Of course, I'm sure these more guys are involved in the return game as well. So it's a great matchup.
I'm not sure if Rockdale's kicked it deep since the second round of the playoffs when Woodville returned 2 kickoffs for touchdowns. I mean, last week I'm not sure they did it. Maybe once, but it was these pooch kicks or even just straight up onside kicks.
It looks like the strategy by a whole lot of teams these days is just, hey, let's give them the ball around the 30 and trust our defense to make plays when you have a dangerous guy back deep. Like I've seen with Temple, with Xavier Johnson and Deontay Hextall, and they had a similar strategy against Manville. Like, don't kick it to that guy who's going to A&M. Let's just give it to him at the 30 and play defense.
Yeah, it works if you've got a good defense like the teams that we're seeing now do. Of course, get this deep in the playoffs, you better have a good defense. So teams can afford to do that. And, like you said, I mean, Rockdale has been burned on a couple of kickoff returns. I mean, Woodville wasn't the first team to do it. So Miller knows what he's doing. Their coaches, they know their strategy. They play the odds a little bit. I mean, giving up maybe 20 yards field position, if your defense can make a stop, it's not a big deal.
Right.
I mean, you're going to figure your offense is going to get that field position back a little bit later anyway. So
definitely. Yeah, and we've obviously mentioned Crawford a bunch throughout the season, but through the playoffs, he hasn't really had to, have 30 touches a game. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets, somewhere near that tonight. Maybe not that much, but I mean it's going to be up there. They're going to throw him in the Wildcat. They're going to try to get him the ball
as much as they think they need him, right?
Yeah. Now's the time. Unleash that guy. Let him do what he can do.
And he should be a little fresher than he hasn't played for all 14 games. He
missed a few.
Get into the lineup, so he should have enough stamina left to have a big game tomorrow.
Definitely, and anytime you got a quarterback such as Rockdale's Torrey Laughlin, I mean. Anything's possible. That guy he's tough. He doesn't look bulky or anything like that, but that guy will break tackles when he keeps it. He's got a good arm. Threw a couple of interceptions last week, but that'll happen. But he's on the same page with those receivers more often than not. So
quarterback advantage to Rockdale, you think?
Definitely. Passing game for sure. Right. I don't know what Yoakum is capable of in that regard, but definitely Rockdale can chip off a lot of yards through the air for sure.
And winner of this game gets
Brock. Brock won Thursday night. They beat who the heck did they beat? Kemp. Yeah, we were trying to pinpoint where Kemp actually is in Texas, but
and we failed miserably for quite a while.
Yeah, someone Google it at home. Help us out. No, but Brock, state champions in 2015, beating Cameron Yo in a memorable game for a few reasons, but we won't get into that. But Brock back in the state championship game. I think this is their 5th varsity season or something like that. 5th season in the UIL, and then their 2nd state championship game. So that game, the 3A Division I championship game, is next Thursday, December 21st at 3 p.m. In Arlington.
So you have Brock by playing Thursday night already with kind of getting on that Thursday schedule and an extra day to recuperate and to scout this game. So a little advantage for Brock perhaps, but
I'm sure Rockdale had some coaches up there in Arlington, which is where this state semifinal game was. They probably had a few guys out there, seeing just in case.
That's right.
Well, just real quick before we get to Temple, let's just chat about Salado real quick. We've talked a ton about this season and what the Eagles did. 2 years ago they were 1-10. Last season 7-5, and they finished 12-2 this year.
So they should be on pretty good pace to go 16-0
right?
next year.
Yeah,
is what
pretty
like.
soon. They got some guys they're going to have to replace, but a remarkable run, and they weren't ever out of that game last week against West Orange Stark, the reigning champ, who's won 39 games in a row. But that offense, which is shocking considering what it did all year, they were held in check last week. But nothing to hang their heads about over there in Salado.
No, really one of the best turnaround stories probably in the state at any level. If anybody who saw Salado play from about 2013 to 2015 knows that program was really struggling, just with struggling to get any positive momentum, and to think that you could bring a new coach in and basically dealing with the same kind of kids. I don't think there was a big talent influx. It just was, hey, this is how we're going to do it now, and this is our offense, and this is our defense, and Alan Hare just deserves a ton of credit, but also do the players for just, hey, not being down and listening to the new guy and saying,
right.
Hey, what I've done works. If y'all will just buy in, we can get it done. And I think you have to be pretty tough right now to play football at Salado. I think they play a kind of a down and dirty style and nasty on both sides, and it's not pretty boy football by any means.
No.
So the kids deserve a lot of credit, but I think sometimes teams lose great players and they can't reload. I think in Salado's system right now, as long as they've got slightly above average athletes, they can make the system work no matter who is there, because it's been proven that it works even if you don't have the greatest talent to deal with.
That's one thing about that slot T type offense. It's like, I mean, it's been a while, but we saw it when Joey McQueen took over in line passes. I know Josh wasn't in the area yet, but Greg and I were kind of familiar with that. Line passes had struggled for years. He came in, he went up to Liberty Hill and watched what they did, kind of took some notes, implemented it in line passes, and didn't take them long to go from a winless team to a playoff team. And then, of course, Joey McQueen gets offers elsewhere and took off. Good for him. But
and also Jeff Walker at Rogers. I mean,
right.
Rogers had been winning under some different coaches, maybe under different different regimes and different styles, but as long as you've got some tough players, I think that's the key. Tough players. They don't have to be like running 4.4 40s. They just have to be tough. You don't need huge linemen to make that offense work. They just have to be willing to be aggressive and physical, and then you just need some smart backs who are maybe quick, but more like strong and don't mind the contact. So, and you don't even need a quarterback, honestly, who can throw the ball more than 2 or 3 times a game, which Coach Hare's son did a pretty good job of operating that offense, but you'd like to think they can find another sharp kid to run that show. And the defense was really good this year too, so that might be the bigger concern actually about finding the guys who can play that same caliber of defense. But you like to think they've got great momentum in the program right now.
Yeah,
kids will buy into whatever the coaches are selling. So pretty cool.
The pool of athletes probably deepened for sure. Over the last
more
couple
kids
years.
coming out for football.
Exactly.
Now it's cool and they're winning.
It's definitely probably exciting to be in Salado right now. Is quite a few Central Texas teams actually. I mean, Holland. I mean, they kind of had a little resurgence under Brad Talbert since he's been there. And it's good to see some different teams being playoff strong instead of. I mean, we've gotten used to Cameron U over the years, but some of these other teams that are coming up, just to see what they can do in the years to come. And I think Salado, like Greg said, I mean, if they just kind of buy into that system, get a few tough kids, they can be solid for a few years under Hare.
Yeah.
So,
speaking of solid for a few years, nice little transition over to Temple. I was actually kind of surprised. I was looking at, just their seasons since Bob McQueen left. What was that in 1999?
1999 was his last year.
Not a lot happened between then and 4 years ago.
No.
When Temple made was that when they made that first, when they played Aledo?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they had one playoff win from 2000 to 2013.
Yeah, that's, I actually, that kind of took me by surprise. I mean, this is only my third football season in the area, but so when you kind of think of, Temple's disappointed they didn't, get further this year. Fourth round for the fourth year in a row. But, and putting it in perspective, what they've done over the last 4 years at the 5A level has been, pretty special. And you kind of touched on that this week with one of your stories.
Yeah, like you mentioned, coming into the 2014 season, of course, that's when Temple did drop from what then was 5A, the largest classification. They dropped into the new 5A, which is like the old 4A. And, you got to say Temple took pretty close to full advantage of it. I mean, they about the only thing they didn't do was win a state championship. But, they played for 2 of them. Like you said, 4th round at least, 4 straight years, 47-12 record. And then another thing is half of those losses were in non-district to 6A, really good 6A opponents. Your Austin Westlakes, Midway, Round Rock, Cedar Ridge, teams that are making pretty deep pushes every year. And then obviously 4 of the losses were in the playoffs, fourth round or beyond. You know, Alito, Richmond George Ranch, Highland Park from Dallas, and you know, I think by now most people are aware of this stat, but you know, Manville, the team that Temple lost to last week, they're probably the favorite in Division One right now to win the state championship. And if they do that, that'll be 5 straight years that the team that knocked Temple out of the playoffs goes on to be the state champion. You know, starting with Cedar Hill in 13 and continuing on these 4 years. So, I mean, that shows, you know, Temple, it takes really one of the best teams in the state to knock them out. They don't lose to, I mean, if you go back game by game for these 4 years, you will not find a bad loss.
Sure.
You not to a
frustrating loss.
Frustrating losses for sure, but you won't find a loss to a subpar opponent, even somebody that's like around 500. It's always a really good team, and that 15-point loss to Manville last week, that's the widest margin of defeat they had. I mean, it's hard to go through 4 years without having a bad night and somebody beating you by 21 or 24 or 30, and every game, Temple would probably say it was in and had a good chance to win. And Manville is one of the best teams I think I've seen in high school football from a talent standpoint. They were a loaded squad.
Even more than that George Ranch team a couple years ago?
I'd say man for man, yes, because they were an extremely good, talented, and well-executing team. But Manville is more like just almost everywhere you looked on the field, you saw like Division I type talent, size, and like almost like an all-star squad, because you never looked out there and saw like, well, they can attack them there, or they're kind of weak here. They were that good, and Temple sitting there 8 points down with like 5 minutes left and has a chance to get a defensive stop, get the ball back, maybe have a chance to go down and score and tie it. And Manville, like a great team, picked up 2 fourth-down conversions and essentially sealed the game right there. So I think if you're Temple, I think you in your heart of hearts probably know that the better team won that game, but Temple was in the game. Turnovers were costly in the first half, so Temple could have won the game. I'm not going to say they should have won the game, though. Manville's that good, and they're playing an undefeated team this week in Angleton, but you'd have to think Manville's the favorite to go on and win. So 10-4 season for Temple. By the way, that four losses, all 4 teams are playing in the state semifinals this week. So including College Station from Temple's district and Cedar Ridge and Midway. So I think their combined record is something like 52-3. The 4 teams that Temple lost. So it's pretty crazy.
Yeah. Now, this is probably a topic for a podcast on its own. The reclassification and redistricting and all that stuff. But Temple is going to go up to 6A.
Right
now. Division 2, Division 1. That's
depending, I guess, on the 4 teams that make the playoffs. Because
what about in the districts? Are they doing that? Is that when 6A is getting split, or
they're going to pre-split 5A for the next 2 years. But by moving up to 6A, it'll still be like how it's been. 4 teams make it, and you just go by biggest 2, smallest 2. Yeah.
So I mean,
they'll probably be, I would think, a Division 2.
Division 2, because they're going to be one of the smaller.
Yeah,
but that's. Are people nervous in Temple?
Well, I don't think they're nervous, and I think part of it is because I was kind of going through the roster, and you look at who they're losing. They're definitely losing a lot of good players. I mean, T.J. Rumfield at quarterback, great in his 1 year, 35 touchdown passes. Xavier Johnson, Deontay Hextall, Robert Jackson, defensive line, 3-year starter. B.J. Schoolart, Dalvin Fillmore. Really good players across the board. But you look at it, they're bringing back about half their starters, including 3 guys on the offensive line, which the last couple of years Temple's gone in with like a big question mark at offensive line. Next year they're actually going to probably feel pretty good about it. A big question to kind of follow is Jared Wiley probably moving from receiver to quarterback. He's an incredible athlete. Most people have seen him. He's a big athletic kid, 6'6", 215. Just got an offer from Missouri a couple of days ago to, I assume, play probably like a tight end spot. Can he shift over to quarterback and be nearly as efficient with the ball and throwing it as Rumfield was this year? Of course, he'll provide a speed and athletic element as far as running. So Temple's offense might look a lot different next year. They don't have the great receivers back. They do have a more athletic quarterback if it's Wiley. And then you've got Anthony Jackson and DeJohn Overton at running back coming back, and they're really good. So it could be much more of a running type offense and throwing as needed, as opposed to this year was kind of an aerial show with the run mixed in where they needed it.
I'm like I said, I mean, this is something we can talk about for quite a bit, and we'll probably do a podcast on it. But I mean, it could be like a massive district, you know, because Temple and Belton, you might be going back to. What about the Killeen schools?
Right.
I mean, Waco is going to go up to 6A
and Bryan also.
Yeah.
And Bryan's they can kind of move Bryan in any direction.
What region are these guys going to end up
Right.
in? What's San Angelo Central,
Right.
which is doing? It was in. Are they going to go back to region?
Yeah.
It's just going to be kind of crazy.
Well, and also Temple is even thinking
be.
that it could be sent down to join up with some of the Round Rock or Georgetown schools, potentially, depending on who goes up or down. I don't know how likely that is. I would think probably be in with the Killeen schools and Cove and Belton and probably Midway.
Yeah.
But you would also think they would keep Midway and Waco together.
Right.
Even though they're not in the same school district, but they're so close together. So it would probably either be one massive district, like up to, 9 teams potentially?
Yeah, you get one non-district game, and then you're right in the district.
Yeah, I don't think they'd go Waco North, because if you look at the map logically, there's not any good solid teams that would form a district that Waco could go to north.
Right.
So, you're looking at Waco and Midway coming down here with the 4 Killeen schools, Temple and Coppers Cove.
Maybe an 18 district,
I don't know.
possibly.
Is Coppers
That's what I'm
Cove, are they going to stay up? Because I didn't look at them, because I heard they were going to be pretty close to maybe staying down.
They have 2269 as their numbers, and
that's right around where
what
Temple is too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, those are going to be your 2 small schools with Waco. If it does get split and those 3 make the playoffs,
Right.
then I don't know how they would determine between Cove and Temple. But
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
But
So
we're
we'll
talking about
definitely
stuff
we'll
way down
revisit
the
that.
road.
It's a couple months when that becomes official. But
Yeah.
I know Belton would like to get out of Region 1.
Yeah, that's
As far as football
you
goes.
hear Region 1 and you think West Texas, but really in
No.
football, it's kind of that
It's
western
Metroplex,
side
yeah.
of the Metroplex, and your DeSoto's and Allens, and it's pretty tough. I think
Region 4.
Temple's hopeful of going to Region 2.
Yeah,
I think
Belton would appreciate that as well.
Closer games for maybe by district and area, and then a little bit of an easier road. Region 1's pretty brutal, and especially in those first couple of rounds, and then later on.
always the unique thing about this area is you have teams in the different classifications go in different regions, and I mean, you can have a year here where your 6A could go Region 1, your 5As, we don't have any 5As, but 4As could go Region 2, 3As Region 3.
Yeah.
And another thing is it's not just football in terms of like if you're talking what region you go to for things like in the spring, like area or regional track meets. Like if you're in Region 1, they might toss you in like Lubbock.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're Region 2, you're probably going to be at Baylor. Mm-hmm. So that it has a carryover effect to different sports too. That I'm sure Region 2 is where Temple and I assume Belton would probably like to end up.
Definitely. Well, that's going to be a fun discussion in a couple months. Maybe we'll take phone calls. Oh no, we don't have a way of doing that.
Maybe we have a live studio audience. Take questions from the crowd.
We'll sell tickets to this.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, or just bring us some cheeseburgers.
Hey, that works.
All right, so just real quick, Rockdale and Yoakum tonight, 7 o'clock at FCU Stadium at the Berry Center in Cypress for the right to go to Arlington and face Brock in the 3A Division I state championship game.
And I'll say this, people watch out for that Houston traffic on a Friday. If you're from Rockdale, you're going over there, maybe allow a little extra time. Houston gets kind of crazy on tonight,
Yes.
Friday night.
Yes.
Which is tonight.
Yeah, and also tonight, the big Stag Bowl. Number 1 UMHB, the defending national champions, taking on number 2 Mount Union in Salem, Virginia. We're going to have all the coverage of that in Saturday's paper. Sports editor Eric Drennan is up there where it's cold.
Fourth meeting all time between these teams. Let's see, they've never met in the Stag Bowl. I think it's always been semifinals.
I think so.
Yeah, maybe a quarterfinal one year, but in and I think UMHB is
2-1, which is interesting because of how many times Mount Union has won the national championship and appeared in the Stag Bowl. I mean, it's
20th time in the Stag Bowl, and UMHB's third.
Yeah,
but
I think there's like 40. There's been 45 Stag Bowls, or this is the 45th one, right? And
a cool stat I heard just as to like the matchup of this game is I think Mount Union averages 53 points a game, and UMHB allows 7 points per game. So, and UMHB starting a freshman quarterback in Carl Robinson III, so we'll see how he handles the Mount Union team.
They played last year in the semifinals, a 14-12 UMHB victory. So, and then UMHB goes on and wins the championship in a 10-7 game. So,
and the defense is even better this year,
right? Statistically, and all that stuff. Yeah. So, I don't think UMHB can afford getting in a shootout. But that's likely not even going to happen anyway.
ESPNU at 6 o'clock our time.
6 p.m. And then I believe 101.7.
Yeah, John Wallin, George Hafner of UMHB on the call.
Yes. So, enjoy all that. The bowl season begins Saturday, I believe, too.
A lot of bad
What is it, like 147 bowl games or something like that?
Probably Stag Bowl will be better than some of those.
There's a lot of them. There's a lot of them. So enjoy your weekend, and I think we'll be back next week. Take care.